I am live. I don't know how good this is going to be because I haven't used the internet in a while here. I was going to do the video at home, but when I woke up this morning, my energy was like a little bit off. So already knew I was going to kind of skip out on training and go for a walk instead because the weather is just like amazing. But because the weather's been nice as well, I didn't want to just like go home and do all the stuff I would normally do at home, even though I've got a balcony. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But it's going to be quite a quick video because I almost wasn't going to do one at all, and I was like, no, we're going to do this today, and this is part of the whole jumping into the fear and all that jazz. I've been developing habits, so I'm going to talk about this in the next video. But developing habits of things that are playing into increasing my tolerance to visibility and everything to do with my business. But what I'm talking about today for the first, like, for this video is practicing parallel fears, which probably sounds really, really weird. And I don't know, maybe it won't resonate with everyone, but I almost always, with everything, work with metaphors. So this is where fitness for me has been really powerful for my healing journey, for business, just anything. Is that, especially with the healing and the mental health kind of thing. I was saying it to somebody yesterday. If there's ever a period of time where I'm just feeling really beat down by life, or the sort of misaligned thought that I may be weak or powerless, when I go and lift 100, 120 kilos, it's very difficult to feel weak or powerless. When I go and run, and, it doesn't really matter how far, how long, just like going through that initial period of time where the first 5 minutes, no matter how fit you get, is gnarly. It's not easy when you break through and when you get fitter and you get faster and stuff. Again, it's that kind of in practice denial of the belief that there's powerlessness there, or weakness there. Um, so yesterday I'd done a post and I'd done a newsletter saying that I was embarking on doing a lot more things that are within my dream life, and the things that, sometimes you kind of go, oh no, I'll do it later, I have to fulfill XYZ before I go and do it. And I was like, well, let's identify those beliefs and how correct they are and go and do the ones that I can already do. And a couple of them are to do with I'm going paddle boarding tomorrow and going surfing next week. And it kind of got me thinking, it got me remembering about how 2 years ago, in fact, almost, to the exact time, 2 years ago, I, as at, the tail end of, lockdown, when things are opening up again, I knew that I wanted to surf after being out in Bali and saying, well, I knew for ages I wanted to for like 2 decades, but anyway, when we were out in Bali and we were watching the surfers, I was like, I definitely want to do that, but I was scared of water. I could swim in shallow pools, to the point where I could qualify as a lifesaver, but I couldn't. I'd never swam in water deeper than myself, and I was terrified of deep water, never mind the sea. But I had this huge obsession with, like, and still do, of being around moving water, being around rivers and sea, and being in it, being around it. I loved it, and I thought, how can I keep this fascination? Know that I want to do that, be in it, do the surfing and everything like that, and not being able to swim. So yeah, 2 years ago, I took myself into the pool and I was like, right, it's go time. And yeah, I mean, long story short, there, I taught myself to swim and then went surfing. But it was massive, because I think it's one of those things where when you're teaching yourself to swim as an adult, that shit is hard. And of course, they didn't have access to lessons at the time because I wasn't really going. And right from the offset, the pool was 2 meters deep. So, I had to get in the pool that was deeper than what I could stand in and just trust that I could go. Now, disclaimer here, don't like go and do stuff that you really can't do. I could swim to a certain level. It was more the the fear of it. And in that time, so I had to be able to, initially I got the breaststroke up, and it was trying to get it so that I wasn't just swimming with my head out the water all the time, and actually, doing it properly. So I developed that first, and it was about kind of getting the rhythm. And even with swimming, so it doesn't matter whether it's swimming, running, and sometimes I guess even lifting as well. For me, it's not so much about thinking about the lots of different things. Is I feel, so the rhythm of any sort of movement is what helps me to get into the flow of it, I guess. But yeah, it took an incredible amount of courage to do that, because of course, especially with learning the front crawl, fucking hell, that was savage. Again, not in the position to be taught by anyone, so just learning by showing up, being shit, and understanding that yes, people are going to be watching, because the lifeguards are there to make sure that you don't drown. Given that some of the times, I mean, when I first started doing the front crawl, I couldn't get 10 meters. Without having to stop and go back into the breaststroke, but I kept showing up. And for me, like, especially, someone recovering from perfectionism, that's hard, because the ego was pushing hard, to, you not really wanting to do it, with people watching, or just being bad at something, showing up to something, a few times a week, knowing I suck. I'm really bad at this, but this is the only way we can get better at anything. And I think the problem with, the whole, we've got so much access to technology and social media and stuff now, and everything's about get rich quick, do this thing quick, lose weight quick, everything's quick, 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 quick. How can you do it quickly? How can you get the shortcut? And, sometimes it's not about getting the shortcut, but being willing to show up and being willing to fucking suck and keep showing up and finding the wins with it, starting small and building up, monitoring your progress, noticing the little things that you can do to improve, having a plan, having a program, all these different things. So yeah, that kind of flash came with me, because at the moment there's a couple of business goals that I've got, and part of the visibility stuff is really hard because of the whole financial and emotional abuse, particularly in postpartum depression I experienced. I developed a fear of accepting money into my business, a fear of showing up, imposter syndrome, even all the times that I'd have people coming to me and asking me what I do, or finding ways to block it. So working through that, a lot of that is a leap past the illusion of that fear. So because of the height of emotion that knocked in these limiting beliefs, the reaction that my body has to this fear is so huge that it completely wipes me out. So I started thinking, okay, how can I get clever with this? How can I, throw a loop around it to make it a bit easier? And from the outside looking in, I think maybe from more the neurotypical perspective, it looks like just straight up distraction and trying to do something completely different. But sometimes I need to run a parallel. So tell me to do one thing at a time, that doesn't work. That'll completely throw me. I need to be doing at least two things. So if something gets really hard, I know, okay, I've done what I can do here. I'll flip onto this next one, and it allows me to kind of keep down. So yeah, today, super proud of myself, because I passed my driving test back in January. Oh my god, there's a whole other story with that, because my driving test I had 2-3 weeks before that, I could have passed that, but again, another story. But anyway, I passed it in January. But because of being flooded out of the flat, and not having changed my license and stuff, I've been advised, just keep it the same until you've done your test, because I had such a short period of time. So it meant I had to send away the paper counterpart, and I didn't get my license until about a month after I'd passed my driving test. And then I don't have a car at the moment, and I'd applied for the enterprise, and it took about about another month for that to come through. And by the time it all came through, it was the Easter holidays. And I was like, okay. And obviously, I get generalized anxiety and everything as well. And I was like, I can't leave this much longer. I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to drive. So I booked or tried to book to get a driving lesson, and it just wasn't going to fit in. So today, I'd planned on doing it earlier on in the week and things weren't really working out. So today I was like, do you know what? Since the day hasn't panned out the way that I thought it was going to energy wise, and I just wasn't getting the inspiration and the flow to show up for any of the videos, or like anytime I was trying to write an article or a post or anything, it was just like zzz. So I was like, okay, this upper limit fear is just saying, okay, you're so close to moving past this fear and stepping into that fear and heading towards that goal. So I was like, okay, I see you, I hear you. So I went and I drove a car all by myself. And what made it even more like a huge thing was the fact that, so I learned to drive manual, and I know that some like autistic people really struggle with the whole driving thing full stop. It can be quite difficult to learn and stuff. I mean, it took me a few goes, and my driving instructor was absolutely fabulous. But anyway, I learned manual. So, but the only car that was available was an automatic, and it was electric. And I was like, okay. So initially I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? And, but I did it. So I'm proud of myself. So it was like today and yesterday. Yesterday I went and viewed a house, even though I'm not like really in the position to be able to go and do that. And again, it was just kind of doing these things that feel out of my reach, or telling myself are just not like, no, you don't do these things, or, oh no, this isn't for you. And the more of these little things that I can do, the easier it is to recognize that those feelings of apprehension and fear. I mean, I did tapping and stuff before I went and drove, and the way that I kept my mindset, like I did my mindset stuff with it and everything. But yeah, it's getting to know, for me anyway, it's getting to know and understand what that feeling feels like, and what moving into fear and past fear feels like, makes it easier for me then to take the bigger fear, the one that's like, oh, and then go and do that, because I'm like, okay, so if I can do it in this situation, now it's not minimizing the fact that the reason why it's so hard for me to do this particular thing is very, very, very valid. It's, it's big, but it's going to be easier for me to move forward into that thing by running parallel fears. So yeah, I thought I'd do a little bit of a video on it, because I think sometimes it's so easy, same as I'd said in this. I'll put the link in the comments of the article that I wrote in my newsletter on understanding where you're keeping yourself in the preparation phase, always planning for that dream life, always planning for that big goal. I'm going to do it and thinking, oh, I've got to do this thing. And sometimes all it is literally you just go in, no, I'm just too scared. Sometimes some of these things that you think you have to do to achieve it don't exist. It's just how I described it to my therapist a long time ago, was it feels like, when I get it, it feels like I'm standing and screaming about this like barrier that I can't get through, and it's actually one of those, those theater barriers that's just made of paper that you could pretty much just step through. So yeah, that's my thoughts of the day. I will be back with more planned YouTubes, and I'm not going to say that this one isn't relevant to the stuff that I do, because it totally is, but